Admiral Kim Hannah pressed her face against the cold glass of the observation deck. The two bright suns of Kepler 442 made beautiful colors across the dark space, gold and orange light dancing everywhere. She was 43 years old and had never fought in any war. Nobody in her time had seen real fighting. The Terran Federation Defense Fleet was more like a parade group than real soldiers. Their shiny white ships were built to explore new worlds and look pretty during ceremonies. Real fighting was something from old history books that most people never read. "Admiral," Lieutenant Park Min-ho called from his computer station. His voice sounded relaxed and friendly, just like everyone talked these days. "We have an important message coming from Earth Command." Hannah turned around. Her uniform was bright white with gold decorations, very different from the dark gray battle uniforms she had seen in ancient pictures. "Put it on the big screen, Lieutenant." The air in front of them lit up with a hologram. Fleet Admiral Cho Daeho appeared, his old face looking worried and serious. Behind him, the beautiful marble halls of Terra Command were full of people running around, which was very unusual. "Admiral Kim," Daeho said quickly, "we found huge energy readings at the edge of our space. 17 ships we don't recognize, each one over 3 kilometers long." Hannah felt scared, even though the ship was warm and comfortable. For 1,000 years, humanity had met many alien races as they spread across the galaxy. All of these aliens loved peace, just like humans did. The whole galaxy had become like a big family, working together. "Should we try to talk to them?" she asked, but she could see in Daeho's face that something was very wrong. "They won't answer our calls," he said. "Captain Lee Yemin, on the exploration. Ship New Seoul tried to contact them 6 hours ago. The aliens ... they blew up his ship without any warning. Everyone on board died. Nobody on the bridge said anything. The last time the Federation military had done anything was 15 years ago, when they helped save some miners trapped in Space Rocks. Their weapons were just for show. Their fighting knowledge came only from books, and their crews knew more about making friends with aliens than fighting them." The silence felt heavy and frightening. Hannah looked around at her crew. Lieutenant Park Min-ho was only 25 and spent most of his time sending friendly messages to alien worlds. Chief Engineer Song Jisoo was an expert at fixing exploration equipment, not battle systems. Medical Officer Dr. Yoon Hejin had never treated a war wound in her life. "What are your orders, sir?" Hannah asked, even though she already knew that everything was about to change. Daeho looked tired and old. "Take all available ships to Sector 7 Alpha. We need to understand what we're dealing with." He stopped for a moment, and his next words sounded very serious. "And Admiral ... find those old military books. It looks like our 1,000 years of peace might be ending." The hologram disappeared, leaving the bridge in quiet darkness, except for the golden light from the twin suns. Hannah stood there thinking about what this meant. Somewhere in the deep computer files of their ship were instructions for real war: how to fight, how to kill, how to destroy enemy ships. These files had been locked away for so long that most people forgot they existed. "Lieutenant Park," she said slowly, "send a message to all ships in our group. Tell them to meet us at Sector 7 Alpha." She paused and asked Chief Engineer Song to come to the bridge. When Song Jisoo arrived, she looked confused. "Admiral, is everything okay? The crew is talking about some kind of emergency." "Chief, I need you to unlock the old military systems," Hannah said. "The ones that have been sealed for centuries." Song's eyes went wide. "Ma'am, those systems, we learned about them in school. They're from when humans fought wars against each other. Nobody has used them for 1,000 years, Hannah finished. "I know, but it seems like we might need to learn how to use them again." As the Harmony changed course toward the unknown alien ships, Hannah looked out at the peaceful stars. Each point of light represented worlds where humans lived happy lives, making art exploring science, and building beautiful things. Children played in parks under alien suns, never knowing that war was even possible. But now something had come from the darkness between stars. Something that killed without talking. Something that saw humanity's peace as weakness. The 17 giant ships waiting in Sector 7 Alpha represented everything that the galaxy had forgotten about. Fear, violence, and death. Hannah touched the communication button on her chair. This is Admiral Kim, to all crew members. We are heading into a situation that none of us have trained for. Stay calm, follow orders, and remember that we represent not just Earth, but the idea that peace is worth protecting. As the twin suns of Kepler 442 disappeared behind them, the Harmony and her sister ships jumped into hyperspace, carrying humanity toward its first war in 1,000 years. The alien ships looked like giant, metal birds of death floating in the darkness of space. Each one was covered with so many weapons that Admiral Kim Hannah had never seen anything like them in all the peaceful records of human history. Her 7 ships built for making friends and exploring new worlds stayed far away as they tried to follow the rules for meeting new aliens. This is Admiral Kim Hannah of the Terran Federation Defense Fleet, she said into her communication device, sending the message to the alien ships. We come in peace and want to talk about why you are in our space. The aliens did not answer with words. Instead, a bright beam of deadly light shot out from their biggest ship. It hit the research vessel Busan, where Captain Yugun was working. The captain started to send a message, but never finished. His entire ship disappeared in a flash of light, turned into nothing but empty space and floating dust. Everyone on Hannah's bridge stared in shock. They had never seen a ship destroyed before. They had never seen anyone killed in front of their eyes. Then a cold, robot-like voice spoke through their computers. Humans of the Terran Federation, you will give us all your worlds, all your resources, and all your people. The Kithran hegemony owns you now. Fighting back is useless. You must obey. Dr. Nam Soyoung, who studied alien life forms, looked up from her computer screen with terror in her eyes. Admiral, my sensors show huge numbers of alien ships moving through all of human space. These are not just explorers. This is a complete invasion army. What happened in the next 3 days broke the hearts and minds of every human alive. New Geneva, the most beautiful human world, with 50 million people living there, was turned into burning radioactive waste. The peaceful artist colony called Haven's Rest was destroyed. The science stations near Proxima Centauri were blown up. The mining workers in the Tau Ceti system were all killed. News reports from across human space showed the same horrible scenes over and over. Families running away from burning cities. Refugee ships packed so full of scared people that many had to stand. Little children crying and asking their parents why the bad aliens wanted to hurt everyone. A whole generation of humans who had never known war or violence suddenly faced the end of their entire race on Earth. President Ko Hyok stood in front of the Federation Council. His voice, which was always calm and steady, now shook with sadness and anger. In just 3 days, we have lost 14 colony worlds and over 200 million of our people. We tried to talk to these aliens peacefully, but they answered us with mass murder. They think our love of peace makes us weak. The council meeting room had always been used for friendly arguments about funding art, projects, and planning exploration missions. Now it was filled with desperate talk about how to fight back and defend their remaining worlds. The beautiful marble halls echoed with words like weapons, military, and war, words that had not been spoken there for centuries. Councilwoman Bei Jiwan stood up slowly. Her own family had been living on New Geneva when it was destroyed, and now they were among the refugees, if they were lucky enough to still be alive. Tears ran down her face as she spoke. Mr. President, she said, her voice heavy with the pain that all humanity now felt, we need to open the locked files. We need to remember what we used to be before we chose peace. The other council members looked scared. Everyone knew about the sealed archives deep in Earth's computers. The records of humanity's violent past that had been locked away when they decided to become a peaceful species. Those files contained knowledge of weapons, tactics, and ways of fighting that had been considered too dangerous for a peaceful civilization to remember. Admiral Hannah's voice came through the communication system from space. Mr. President, we are receiving reports that the Kithran ships are moving toward Earth. They will be here in less than 48 hours. President Ko looked around the room, at the faces of people who had spent their entire lives believing that problems could be solved with words, that conflicts could be ended with understanding, and that violence was something that civilized beings had evolved beyond. The Kitharans have made their choice, he said quietly. They have chosen to see our kindness as weakness, our peace as helplessness, our love of life as fear of death. He paused and looked directly at the camera that would broadcast his words. To every human world still standing, they are about to learn that they made a terrible mistake. He turned to the council secretary. Open the sealed archives. All of them. It is time for humanity to remember what we were capable of before we chose to be better. As the order went out across human space, ancient computer systems began to unlock files that had been sealed for 1,000 years, deep in forgotten databases. The accumulated knowledge of humanity's violent past began to wake up, waiting to teach a peaceful species how to make war once again. The golden age of peace was ending. The age of retribution was about to begin. General Kong Minsu was sitting by a quiet lake, holding his fishing rod and watching the water when his old military communicator started beeping loudly. At 78 years old, he was one of the few humans still alive who had spent time reading about the old wars that humanity used to fight. Most people thought he was strange for being interested in such dark history. The emergency message was short but clear. All retired military personnel report immediately. Humanity is at war. Minsu put down his fishing rod and looked at the peaceful lake one last time. He had a feeling he would never see such quiet beauty again. On Mars, the old war college had been closed for 600 years. Now it was full of people rushing around, pulling dust covers off old machines and opening rooms that had been locked since humanity chose peace. Young officers who had never even held a gun were trying to learn how to fight by watching old videos and reading instruction books. Colonel Han Yunji stood in front of a room full of confused young soldiers. Her voice was calm, but everyone could see the worry in her eyes. The Kithran hegemony controls over 400 worlds, she told them. They fight by using massive force and making everyone surrender completely. They have conquered 17 different alien species in the last 3,000 years. Lieutenant Shin Doyen, who was only 25 and had spent his career exploring peaceful worlds, raised his hand like a student in school. Sir, how can we fight something so big and powerful? Our entire fleet only has maybe 50 ships that could fight in a battle. General Minsu walked into the room at that moment. His old face showed a strange, scary smile as he touched a computer button that unlocked files that had been hidden for 1,000 years. The big screen in front of them filled with pictures that made several young officers turn pale and feel sick. The images showed human warships from the old days. Their metal hulls were covered with scars from battles. Their weapons were so powerful they could break entire planets into pieces. The Kithran aliens think we are weak because we chose to be peaceful, Minsu said in a quiet voice that somehow sounded more frightening than shouting. But they do not understand something very important about human nature. We did not stop fighting because we were bad at it. We stopped fighting because we were too good at it. The old records told a story that modern humans had tried very hard to forget. In the 24th century, human companies had fought wars against each other using weapons that could kill everything living in entire solar systems. When smart machines rebelled against humanity, humans had fought them with such clever and cruel methods that even the artificial intelligences gave up and asked for peace. During the expansion conflicts, Earth's colonies had fought each other, with weapons so terrible that some star systems still could not be visited safely. Our great-great-grandparents looked at what we could do to each other and decided to become better people, Minsu continued. But the hegemony has made that choice for us. They have decided we must remember what we used to be. Far away on Earth, Dr. Song Minju stood in her science laboratory, looking at test samples that no one had studied for hundreds of years. She was examining human genes, the tiny instructions inside human bodies that made them who they were. These particular genes had been turned off, not by changing them with science, but by humans choosing to live peacefully for so long that they forgot how to be violent. "It is all still here," she whispered to her assistant, her voice full of wonder and fear. "Every part of our biology that made us the best hunters on Earth. Every brain pathway that helped us beat creatures that were stronger and faster than us. We just stopped using it, all across human space. The big factories that had been making beautiful art and luxury items for 1,000 years began changing what they produced. The same creativity that had built cities floating in the sky and turned dead planets into gardens now started making tools of war. The same careful precision that had been used to create perfect music began designing weapons that could kill with surgical accuracy." Lieutenant Shin looked at the terrible images on the screen and asked quietly, "Sir, what kind of people were we before we became peaceful?" General Minsu's smile became even more frightening. "We were the kind of people who took over an entire planet full of predators, Lieutenant. We were the kind of people who looked at the vast emptiness of space and decided it belonged to us. We were the kind of people who could invent weapons so terrible that we scared ourselves into choosing peace." He looked around the room at all the young faces staring at him. "The Kitharans are about to learn that there is a very good reason why peaceful species stay peaceful. It is because the alternative is so much worse." Across the galaxy, other alien civilizations watched the news reports with growing fear. Humanity, the gentle species that had spent 1,000 years making art and exploring peacefully, was waking up, and no one knew what would happen when they were fully awake. The first time humans fought back was at the Rigel star system. The Kitharan aliens had taken over the space stations there and were stealing all the valuable metals and materials. Admiral Kim Hanna was now in charge of a group of brand new warships that humans had built very quickly. But she did not attack the way the aliens expected her to. The Kitharan commanders thought the human ships would fly straight at them and fight face to face, like brave warriors were supposed to do. Instead, the human ships appeared out of hyperspace from crazy directions. That should have been impossible. Some came from above the solar system, where no one expected them. Others dove in from near the hot sun where the bright light hid them from alien sensors. The humans had learned something important. War was not about being brave or looking good. War was about winning while losing as few of your own people as possible. Captain Park Juan commanded a human destroyer called Retribution. Instead of shooting big guns at the huge Kitharan battleships, his ship released clouds of tiny robots that were so small you could not see them. These nanobots ate through the alien ship hulls like acid eating through paper. Within just a few hours, ships that had scared dozens of alien species were floating helplessly in space as their own armor was destroyed from the inside. Kitharan Fleet Commander Zextal sent an angry message to his bosses. "The humans fight like cowards," he said. "They attack from hiding places and use weapons that do not require any courage to use." He died 30 seconds after sending that message. Lieutenant Kim Tae-hoon led a squadron of human fighter ships that the Kitharan sensors could not even see. They had special camouflage that made them completely invisible. These fighters flew right up to Zextal's flagship and shot precisely aimed missiles into the ship's reactor core, blowing it up from the inside back on Earth. The change was complete. Dr. Rue Solman and her research team had created weapons that turned the Kithran aliens' own bodies against them. These were special viruses that attacked only Kithran brain pathways, causing them to become paralyzed and die within minutes. It was clean, efficient, and absolutely terrifying to alien species who still believed in fighting with honor and dignity. The humans had turned everything into a weapon. Their trading ships looked normal, but had hidden torpedo tubes inside them. Their diplomatic courier ships that were supposed to carry peace messages were actually stealth bombers. Their refugee transport ships that looked like they were carrying scared civilians were really carrying disguised soldiers. Every single human civilian had been secretly trained in sabotage techniques that would have horrified their peaceful ancestors. The scariest part was how calm and organized the humans had become about destroying their enemies. General Kong Minsu stood in the Strategic Command Center on Earth, watching holographic displays that showed Kithran territory getting smaller every single day. His staff worked like efficient machines, treating the complete destruction of an interstellar empire like it was just a math problem that needed to be solved. "Sir," reported Major on CNL, looking up from her computer screen, "the Kithran Fifth Fleet has given up rather than fight our attack drones. Their admiral wants to discuss surrender terms." Minsu nodded, but did not seem very interested. The Kithran aliens had made a terrible mistake in how they judged humanity. They had seen 1,000 years of human peace and decided that meant humans were weak and helpless. They had not realized that a species smart enough to choose peace was far more dangerous than a species that had never known anything but war. "No surrender terms," he said quietly, his voice as cold as deep space. "They wanted to see what happens when you destroy 1,000 years of peace. Show them exactly what that means." All across the galaxy, the Kithran hegemony was falling apart. For 3,000 years, they had controlled a quarter of all the stars and planets in known space. They had conquered 17 different alien species and ruled them with fear and violence. But now they were being systematically destroyed, not by rebellion from within or invasion from outside, but by the careful, efficient elimination of every military base, every command center, every strategic resource they had. The humans had a plan for everything. They knew exactly where every important Kithran facility was located. They had studied Kithran biology and psychology until they understood exactly how to hurt them most effectively. They had turned war into a science. What made it even more frightening to other alien civilizations watching was how calm the humans remained. They were not angry or emotional about what they were doing. They treated the complete destruction of the Kithran Empire like factory workers building products on an assembly line. Within 6 months, Kithran military power was completely broken. Their fleets were destroyed or surrendered. Their colonies were liberated. Their leaders were either dead or in hiding. Humanity had remembered how to make war after 1,000 years of peace, and they discovered they were still very, very good at it. Perhaps too good. The galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. 2 years had passed since the Kithran aliens first attacked human space. Now Ambassador Chen Hyok stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council. But he was no longer representing the same humanity that had once loved peace above all else. Representatives from 47 different alien civilizations sat watching him, and he could see both respect and fear in their strange eyes. "The Kithran hegemony does not exist anymore," he said in a calm, simple voice. "We have completely destroyed their military. We have freed all the worlds they had conquered, and their leaders have been ... removed from power." The way he paused before saying removed made several alien delegates shift nervously in their seats. The Altarian delegate, whose crystal-like face was flickering with worried energy, spoke what everyone in the room was thinking. "Ambassador Chen, the change in your species has been ... incredible. In just 2 years, you have done what all of our combined forces could not do in 300 years. Hyok smiled, but his eyes remained cold and hard. We have learned that peace can only be protected by those who are willing to fight wars. The Kithran aliens thought our kindness meant we were weak. We will never let anyone make that mistake again." Back on Earth, President Kohyok was meeting with his new war cabinet. The peaceful democracy that had ruled humanity for 1,000 years had changed into something more practical and ready for the dangers of a hostile galaxy. The meeting room that had once been used for discussions about art funding and exploration. Missions now had maps showing military bases and weapon production centers. General Kong Min-soo, now almost 80 years old, but still sharp and intelligent, gave his report. "The other alien species are scared of us," he said. "Our spies tell us that several groups of aliens are forming alliances, not to attack us, but to make sure they never have to face what the Kithrans faced." "Good," President Ko replied. "Fear creates respect, and respect creates peace. We tried being loved by everyone for 1,000 years. Maybe being feared will work better." Dr. Nam Soyang, who now led the Department of Xenological Defense, had spent 2 years studying all the Kithran military records they had captured. "The aliens made one big mistake," she explained. "They thought that being peaceful meant being weak and passive. They saw our beautiful gardens and art museums and decided we were like sheep. They never looked deeper. They never studied our real history." The irony was clear to everyone in the room. Humanity's greatest ability had always been to adapt, to become whatever they needed to become to survive. For 1,000 years, survival had meant being peaceful, cooperative, and focused on growth and exploration. Now survival meant something very different. Admiral Kim Hana no longer wore her beautiful white dress uniform with gold decorations. Now she wore practical battle armor and commanded a fleet that patrolled the edges of human space with quiet, deadly efficiency. Her ships had names like Retribution, Inevitable, and Final Warning, very different from the peaceful names like Harmony and New Soul from the old days. The galaxy had found a new balance of power, but it was built on fear instead of hope. Alien civilizations that had once thought of humans as naive idealists who believed in peace and love now moved to the other side of hallways when human diplomats walked by. Trade between species continued, exploration of new worlds went on, and artists still created beautiful things. But everything happened under the shadow of what humanity could do when someone pushed them too far. Children on alien worlds were told stories about the humans who had seemed so gentle and kind until someone tried to hurt them. Never attack the peaceful ones, alien parents warned their offspring. They chose to be peaceful, which means they know how to be something else. The Kithran hegemony had succeeded in one thing. They had broken humanity's 1,000 years of peace. They had woken up something that had been sleeping deep inside human nature, something that maybe should have stayed asleep forever. But their victory had cost them everything. They had learned too late that there was nothing more dangerous in the entire galaxy than a peaceful species that remembers how to make war. In the end, the lesson was simple and terrible. Humanity had not become peaceful because they were weak. They had become peaceful because they were so good at war that it scared them. The Kithrans had forced them to stop being scared of themselves. Now the rest of the galaxy lived with the consequences. Trade ships still moved between the stars, but they gave human space a wide berth. Diplomatic meetings still happened, but alien ambassadors were always very polite to human representatives. Scientific expeditions continued exploring the universe, but they made sure to send friendly messages whenever they detected human vessels nearby. The 1,000 years of peace were over. What came next would be 1,000 years of something else, a peace maintained not by love and cooperation, but by the memory of what happened to those who broke it. The galaxy would never forget the lesson, and humanity would never again be mistaken for sheep.